Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the Nike Air Huarache. Now, as you guys can see, it comes in the standard red and white Nike sportswear box. I'll give you a quick look at the label. It's called the Air Huarache. The size I have is 10.5 US, which I will explain later in the video. The colorway that I have here is anthracite, black, Hyper Punch, and electric green. And the retail price sticker is ripped off because this is actually a Canadian pair. Retail in Canada for these was $140. Retail in the States, I believe, is $100 to $110 depending on the colorway of this particular model. So we'll get them out of the box and we'll take a closer look at this shoe that honestly has really flown under the radar for me personally. This is one of those shoes that I walked in a local sneaker store and just really liked for whatever reason. I know it's an unusual shoe, it's not for everybody. It has a very kind of old school vibe about it, a little bit abstract if you will, especially considering that it's a Nike model with no real Nike swoosh on the side or really on the front. You have your Nike branding across the heel, and that's pretty much about it in terms of what you're going to see while you're actually wearing these shoes. But nonetheless, just a really big fan of this particular colorway and the shoe in general. It's just a model that has really grown on me since I picked these up and started noticing them more and more. So this is the Air Huarache. For those that don't know, I did a little bit of research, so I thought I would share that with you guys. This shoe originally came out in 1991 as kind of one of Nike's flagship runners. Now this shoe is designed by, or was designed, sorry, by Tinker Hatfield, who's obviously a very famous sneaker designer with Nike as well as Jordan brand. He's responsible for a lot of some of the most popular Jordan models that Nike has ever put out. They're iconic shoes, and this is definitely one of those iconic designs as well. So in 1991, apparently the inspiration for this particular shoe, which I think is kind of interesting, is that he actually went on a water skiing trip and found that water ski boots featured a neoprene upper that wrapped your foot really nicely. So they incorporated that design into, or that technology, sorry, into the Air Huarache, which is what I have right here, which as you guys can see, it doesn't have a tongue. It has a one-piece neoprene kind of booty, is how you would describe it, where it wraps your heel, it wraps your forefoot. The toe box obviously is mesh and has separate pieces to it, but it has a nice snug fit even prior to tying the laces tight, which in 1991 would have really been kind of cutting edge technology. And then of course, you do have this rubberized strapping system that runs from the midfoot and then secures the rear portion of the shoe. It gives it that little bit of structure, a heel counter without actually being a heel counter, if you will. So really interesting design. I like the backstory behind these shoes. That's what's cool about Nike's really vast history and kind of sneakers and what they've done over the years. They're definitely one of the most kind of progressive companies in terms of how their shoes have changed from year to year, starting in the early 90s, even the late 80s, up until now. There's just been a constant evolution of their shoes, and I like that they're not afraid to bring back these older designs and keep them popular and have people continue to wear them, because it's just a really cool shoe in my opinion. So as far as this colorway is concerned, it's a bit of a Yeezy theme. I definitely understand that. I know for that reason a lot of people probably will hate on it, and that honestly was not my thought process when I picked these up. I was a big fan of the actual appearance of the sole. It's Hyper Punch pink, which obviously I'm pretty familiar with. It was the main color for Nike throughout the World Cup with their soccer line, but what's interesting about it is obviously it's a solid foam midsole, but the Hyper Punch itself has this very kind of faded, almost worn appearance to it, if that makes any sense. And it's not necessarily a good thing. It's almost like it was a white sole that was spray painted and then they let it sit for a little while. It has that aged appearance to it, which I actually like, but certainly is not for everybody. And then you have the little bit of lime green here in the Huarache branding there. That's kind of a rubber circle. It says by Nike Air Huarache, and that's, I believe, the Air Huarache logo right there in the middle. It's just like a stitched on piece of rubber. And then you do have the translucent rubber in this band here with the Nike branding across the back as well, with the rest of the strap obviously being solid black kind of rubber. Then as far as the upper materials go, it's pretty much all synthetics. This is kind of like a it's a synthetic kind of nubuck feel to it, but I'm not even sure what that pattern would be. It kind of has this like crackle effect. Not super noticeable from a distance, but obviously up close you definitely do see the actual texturing there that they've implemented. The neoprene booty is actually just kind of like a shiny black, and it does look a little bit cheap. This is definitely a shoe that does not look modern anymore, at least in my opinion. I guess everyone's opinion will differ in that regard. You have it around the toe as well, and then of course you do have the gray mesh right here in the toe box area, acting as a nice accent, as well as the liner, which is also a slightly darker gray color. But all in all, very, very cool shoe as far as the upper is concerned. I always like the Nike models where they didn't incorporate the Nike swoosh. It wasn't the focus of the design, because this shoe just to me has a very unique look to it overall. For whatever reason, if they look a little bit like kind of warped to you, it's just because they were in the box, and the box is a little bit too small. It's not something that's noticeable when they're on your feet. It kind of bounces back into shape. But for the time being, until I actually get some wear time in them, they're kind of a little bit warped, or appear to be warped, just based on how they've been crammed into the box, which is a bit of a shame. I'm not sure why the box is so small. That just happens from time to time with these sneakers from Nike, but that's what they did. Nonetheless, here is the midsole. Obviously, it does have some kind of design to it. It does have the Air kind of embossed at the back here, and I believe there is supposed to be an Air unit in the heel. At least there probably was originally. I'm not sure if that is the case anymore. Most likely there is something there, but it's not something that is particularly noticeable, although these shoes are extremely comfortable for whatever reason. Couldn't tell you what type of foam it is. I don't think that's something that Nike has even covered in their tech specs with this, with what is essentially a retro release in the form of these shoes that are available in tons and tons of different colorways. And then of course on the bottom you do have a solid black rubber outsole in its original form. Nothing too fancy. Obviously you do have what are basically flex grooves here in the forefoot, and then your Nike Air branding, a very old school looking logo here, kind of with a little bit of neon green kind of paint over top just to make it visible, because it is actually embossed there at the bottom of the sole. But that is pretty much it as far as my thoughts and just an overview of this particular Nike Air Huarache. This is actually a shoe that I'm really into at the moment and probably will be picking up in more colorways. So let me know your opinions on it down below in the comment section. Do you like these? Do you not like these? Why or why not? And with that being said, let's move on to the on-feet portion of the video so we can get a better look at how these shoes kind of look on feet, as well as what the sizing is like, because they definitely are very off as far as sizing is concerned, which is pretty interesting. All right, so here is a look at the Huaraches on feet. Really, really happy with how these things feel and